Listen to this. 6 seconds. That's all it takes for your brain to teleport you to Paris. It is the ultimate cinematic shortcut. Ratatouille, Looney Tunes, The Incredibles, even The Little Mermaid. Whenever Hollywood needs to say, "We are in France," without actually saying it, they use this exact sound. But there is a massive problem with this. The instrument that the entire world associates with French culture isn't even French. And the real reason it hacked your brain is a 150-year-old accident. The accordion is not French. Nope, it isn't. So it was actually invented in Vienna in 1829 by an Armenian piano maker named Cyril de Mayen. It spread across all of Europe within a year of its invention, and it landed in France at roughly the same time as everywhere else. So how did it become the sound that signals France faster than almost anything else on Earth? Paris in the 1880s was filling up with migrants. Workers from the Auvergne region of central France had been flooding into the city for decades and settling in the eastern neighborhoods. They brought their music too. The instrument they played was called a musette, a small goatskin bagpipe. The dance halls where they performed became known as the bal musette. For you and I to understand better, the bal musette is a style of French instrumental music and dance that first became popular in Paris in the 1880s. Although it began with bagpipes as the main instrument, this instrument was eventually replaced by the accordion, on which a variety of waltzes, polkas, and other dance styles were played. Or at least that's what Wikipedia told me when I looked it up. Check your sources, kids. By 1880, there were already about 150 of these dance halls packed into the working class parts of Paris. The Auvergnat even had a name for them, Bal du Bonnet, named after the cafe owners who ran them. Then, Italian immigrants arrived in the same neighborhoods. They also played music with that same accordion. They started sharing the same dance halls as the Auvergnat, and the accordion, which was louder and more portable than the bagpipe, gradually took over as the lead instrument. But the bagpipers didn't hand over their stage willingly. The accordion was seen as the loud newcomer's instrument at first, but it could play a clean waltz. The goatskin pipe couldn't keep up. Sound settled the argument. There was a practical reason it won too. The accordion was basically the boombox of the 1800s. Like, a worker could carry the entire performance on their back and play a full song wherever. That kind of portability is hard to compete with. So by the early 1900s, the transformation was complete. The musette waltz had been reborn around the accordion. But with this transformation, something came that changed the French accordion forever. The reason it sounds French has nothing to do with France. The secret is in the tuning. It is called musette tuning. Here's how it works. An accordion makes sound through small metal strips called reeds. Air flows past them and they vibrate to produce notes. Most accordions have one reed per note, but a musette-tuned accordion has 2 or 3 reeds per note. And those extra reeds are deliberately tuned, slightly off pitch from the main one. When 2 reeds tuned slightly apart play the same note at the same time, this gives you this trembling, like a wavering effect. French accordion makers called the amount of wavering the wetness. The wetter the tuning, the more pronounced the shimmer. And I love the use of the word shimmer. The French accordion makers built entire product lines around how wet a buyer wanted their instrument. A dry tuning was for orchestras and concert halls. A wet tuning was for the dance hall floor. The shimmer was a setting people picked on purpose. That is what makes it so easy to identify. It's like a deliberate thing engineered into the instrument. Only the French musette has that warm tremolo that your brain registers as Parisian. And that sound ended up in places nobody expected. By the 1920s and 30s, there were over 150 dance halls in the Bastille district alone. The accordion was everywhere in working class Paris. Then, 2 things happened that made the sound become mainstream and global. The first was Edith Piaf. Piaf started her career singing in these very dance halls. The accordion and her voice became one, and her voice became the flag of France for the rest of the 20th century. When people around the world heard La Vie en Rose, they heard the accordion underneath it. The two became inseparable, and so did France and the accordion. But she wasn't the only legend that came out of these dance halls. Django Reinhardt, The guitarist that jazz musicians still treat like scripture started out playing musette bands before anyone knew his name. So did Stéphane Grappelli. The cliché instrument trained some of the most serious musicians France ever produced. The accordion didn't stay on top forever, though. From around 1900 to 1960, it had what people call its golden age. It was everywhere in popular music. Until the electric guitar showed up, and rock and roll made this sound take a run for its life. It got pushed out of the spotlight almost everywhere except France, and a handful of other countries that never let it go. But in recent decades, the accordion has made a significant comeback, like a fire that just won't be put out. We see it all the time in indie and folk rock, but genres like Tex-Mex and Cajun kept it alive. The second thing was Hollywood. The clearest example of how deliberately Hollywood reaches for this sound is Ratatouille. When Pixar needed to set a film in Paris, composer Michael Giacchino was hired to score it. And even he admitted the pull of the shorthand was hard to resist. Welcome to Gusteau's opens with a 2-second quote of the French national anthem, La Marseillaise, then goes straight into an accordion-led waltz. 2 seconds of the national anthem, then accordion, literally saying, this is France. Giacchino told Den of Geek it would have been easy to think that there should be nothing but accordion and jazz violin or jazz guitar, but the story asked me to go much deeper than that. The sound is very mainstream, and to be honest, you might actually be living under a rock if you haven't heard it before. But what you didn't know is that there's a trick behind the accordion. Why it works on your brain. Why it works on your brain. The first is timing. A waltz runs in 3 beats per bar. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That rhythm creates a specific physical effect. You can even hear it in my voice. It produces a gentle swaying forward momentum, like rocking. Your body responds differently to triple time than to the 4-beat rhythms that dominate most Western pop music. And because the musette waltz has been the dominant French popular music form for over a century, that swaying physical quality has become part of the French sonic signature. The second is that tremolo. The effect introduces what musicians call a beat. Beat in physics, though, the pulsation caused by the combination of 2 waves of slightly different frequencies. Research in neuroscience has found that this beating tends to be perceived as warm and nostalgic rather than unstable. Your brain interprets it as familiarity. This is exactly why the accordion is so good. But it's only one part of the reasons why this melody went global. It all started in 2001. There was a film about a girl who works in a cafe in Montmartre. Director Jean-Pierre Jeunet was driving with his production assistant one day when a CD came on that he'd never heard before. It was the accordion and piano. He was so struck by it that he immediately bought the composer's entire discography. That composer was Jan Tiersen, a Breton musician almost nobody outside France had ever heard of. Before that whole thing, Jeunet already had a composer picked out for Amélie, Michael Nyman. Nyman is this serious British composer. I mean, he is good, but his work is minimal and precise. It might have been too serious for a movie like Amélie. If you've seen it, you'd understand what I mean. It would have sounded completely different from what we know today. We were literally one decision away from not having Amélie be a groundbreaking representation of the France sound. Jeunet went ahead and commissioned Tiersen to score the film. The soundtrack was so beautiful that it got several nominations, including 1 BAFTA nomination for Best Original Music. They even won the 2002 César Award for Best Music Written for a Film. For those of you who don't know, that's like the Oscars for France. It introduced the accordion to an entire generation of international audiences who had only ever heard it in animated films. Interestingly, Tiersen wasn't interested in making French music from the start. As a matter of fact, he was actively avoiding it. What he made was his own thing, which happened to include accordion by chance. The film sold 6 million tickets in its first 7 weeks in France alone, grossing more than Pearl Harbor at the French box office. The romantic comedy became a massive commercial hit, ultimately amassing over $174 million worldwide. The cafe where Amélie worked became one of the most visited spots in Montmartre because of it. I mean, if I was in Montmartre, I would have definitely gone there too. For millions of people who had never been to Paris, Tiersen's score was their first idea of what France sounded like. And can you believe that after all that, the French still don't think of the sound as theirs? French people will tell you themselves that the accordion isn't theirs. Well, technically it isn't theirs. The instrument comes from Vienna, but there's no way anyone is thinking of Vienna when they hear the sound. In 2014, NPR played accordion-led French film music to people in Paris. A number of them said it didn't sound particularly French to them. It sounded like movie music about France, go figure. Which is exactly what it is. Movie music about France. The strange part is the actual French heritage, the goatskin bagpipe, this whole sound replaced, is barely remembered in France today. The instrument that got pushed out is more forgotten than the blueprint. Most French people under 40 have never heard one before. I hadn't even heard one until moments ago. The sound that replaced it became so dominant that it erased the memory of what came before it. Is that like really sad? The accordion became the sound of France the same way every sonic stereotype forms. A musical tradition develops in a specific place through specific historical circumstances. It gets picked up and repeated by popular media, and voila, there you have it. Your branded sound. Real Paris sounds like any major European city. But close your eyes and play 4 bars of a Musette waltz, and every person on earth arrives in a Parisian cafe, whether they've ever been to France or not. If you want to hear more about sounds, our last video is about how Christopher Nolan turned bad audio into something that changed cinema forever. That link down there, that'll take you to it. See you there.